Hey everybody, welcome into GameQuest, a Volquest.com game day podcast. I am your host, Jarrett Cain, alongside my co-host, Ramey, and today's show is going to preview everything Tennessee and Arkansas related. Tennessee, Arkansas, Saturday, 4:15 Eastern Time, Neyland Stadium. That game will be broadcasted, televised on the SEC Network. So, new look Arkansas, new leadership. Will that make a difference? Offensively, we'll get into it. I think that's certainly not the issue. Defensively, how much change is going to realistically make a difference in 2 weeks? We'll discuss that. Former Tennessee quarterback Jared Guarantano is going to join the show like he's done several times here on GameQuest. It's coming up in about 10-15 minutes. Get his thoughts on Tennessee's season to date, win over Mississippi State on the road, the challenges in facing a defense when you're really not sure kind of what you're going to get. Plus, that look that Arkansas gave Tennessee last year that gave them fits. Odd front, 3 high safeties. We'll get a quarterback's perspective on how to beat that type of defense. Coming up with Jared Guarantano in about 10 to 15 minutes. Keys to the game, all that and more. What does Arkansas look like personnel-wise? That's coming up here today on GameQuest, presented by our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey, LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injury. A lot of good stuff over there. You can pick up the phone if you need a free consultation by dialing 423-245-4185 or check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. You got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. All right, Grant, so 2 weeks this has been stewing, right, for both programs. You had Arkansas that was on a bye last week. Tennessee was on a bye last week as well. Tennessee an overtime win at Mississippi State, picking up the 41-34 victory in overtime. And you had Arkansas that's, a lot of people I talked to said they just kind of quit in that football game. 56-13, I think, was the final to Notre Dame last time out. Sam Pittman's gone. The interim. If this doesn't scream college football, I don't know what does. Former Arkansas head coach turned offensive coordinator with a bunch of that happened in between. Now the interim coach, and that's Bobby Petrino. Fires a bunch of the defensive staff, promotes some assistant defensive line coach to defensive coordinator, brings in some outside counsel. It's been a lot happening for Arkansas. Tennessee, on the other hand, really just trying to rest, recover, and get back into the flow of things. Been a wild 2 weeks for Arkansas, but it'll be good to get back on the field for Tennessee at Neyland on Saturday.
I don't think anybody was caught off guard by the Sam Pittman era ending. It was felt for a while now, probably a year plus, like it was going to be a win, not if situation. I think as soon as he hired Bobby Petrino as his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, you could kind of see where maybe this whole thing was heading. I don't know if you call it a coup or anything like that, but it is what it is. But it was strange to see on Monday, the Monday after, that he fires 3 of his defensive coaches. Like, they're bad on defense. Obviously, Notre Dame had 42 points and 420 yards of total offense in that first half. 2 weeks ago at Arkansas. So obviously the defense is struggling, but I don't know how much firing guys and promoting other guys and bringing in a defensive line coach from the UFL changes your defense or helps you mid-season. It's just a bizarre, I don't know. I guess he had the athletic department's blessing, his athletic director's blessing to do whatever he needed to do to try to fix this coaching staff, but it's just not often that you see an interim coach making wholesale changes middle of the season. At least he had 2 weeks to deal with it, and they're both teams coming off the bye and all that stuff. But still, it was a bad defense to start with, and now you're basically starting over on that side of the football with a whole new staff, a bunch of new faces.
So, I see Arkansas responding one or two ways. You rally around Bobby Petrino, and you're kind of rejuvenated a little bit with some shakeups and all that. And for a team that had lost 3 straight and kind of become stale in some areas, I think that could be a big deal. Or you're just like, man, I really don't care. I'm not going to be here next year. I'm going to hit that portal. I'm going to go out here and try to do me and get good tape. And so as far as team stuff, you can kind of quit. I think that you're going to see one or two ways. I think in this football game, it's going to be a nail-biter, high-scoring nail-biter, or it's going to be just a complete, Tennessee's just going to destroy them, right? I don't think there's going to be any in between because Arkansas is a team that can score points and has a really good quarterback in Taylen Green and has some weapons on the outside. They did a really, really good job in the transfer portal getting Taylen Green, who's a transfer himself. Was there last year, though. Got him a lot of playmakers out on the offensive end and the backfield and all that. So it's going to be interesting. But I'm with you. I don't really understand how much things can change defensively, right? I think the verbiage has to stay the same. It's got to, and that's why I think they kind of promoted the assistant defensive line coach to the quote unquote coordinator, kind of keep everything holding together a little bit. But this is a defense that is absolutely horrendous. To put things in perspective, Grant, look at this defense the last 3 games and losses to Ole Miss, Notre Dame, and Memphis. Memphis, which is a good program, but you don't need to be losing to Memphis, especially if it's a road game. They're averaging giving up 43 points, 535 yards of total offense, 329 through the air, 206 on the ground. Notre Dame racked up almost 700 yards of total offense, 641. That is inexcusable. Inexcusable. It's a power program to give up that many yards. 210 yards on the ground. Memphis ran for 290. The Memphis Tigers, again, good ball club, ran for 290 on an SEC program. It's been just horrendous. So again, like I don't see the defense all of a sudden becoming fantastic. But what is interesting, Grant, you look at the stats and the box score stats and SEC stats and all that. Tennessee and Arkansas very similar defensively. Ranking towards the bottom in pass defense and total defense, scoring defense. The difference is scoring defense is a bit skewed in my opinion for Tennessee, but also Tennessee's up there in sacks and TFLs and defensive touchdowns and takeaways, whereas Arkansas is not.
And what Notre Dame did was in Fayetteville. That's obviously impressive. Memphis ran for 290. They got down 28-10 in that game. They had to come back from 18 points down in the first half and win that game 32-31. Now the Ole Miss loss, if anything, is a compliment to this Arkansas team because that's a pretty good Ole Miss team, and Arkansas was right there with them in Oxford for a lot of that game. I think it was 28-all in the first half. I think they scored late to kind of get it back to a one possession, but that was still a pretty impressive performance going on the road against that Ole Miss team. But I mean, what Bobby Petrino was talking about after making those changes last week was like, we got to find out what our base defense is going to be. And I think it's more along the lines of, instead of maybe not wholesale changes schematically, it's more like just simplifying and what can we figure out that's going to have us playing the fastest and getting to the football and knowing what we're doing and all this stuff. I think it's more of a simplifying and taking out anything that's whatever's been holding this defense back and trying to kind of start from scratch in terms of that, instead of more or less crazy changes. What's it going to look like? Anything like that. I think it's more simplifying and going from there. But I mean, it's a Tennessee's offense has scored points against everybody. They've played really well against a lot of teams, a lot of defenses, a lot of different looks. You're at home. You have to look the part. You're a 2-touchdown favorite. You're playing an interim head coach. You're playing against a program that's reeling. I mean, when we left Starkville, what we were talking about, like survive and advance. Like you go on the road, just find a way to win a football game and get back home. When you are home, you need to play well and you need to handle this team the way you can handle this team if you play well on both sides of the football.
Well, it's interesting that he said we kind of need to find out what our base defense is. Now, listen, it's 2025. Every defense is multiple, right? It's long gone are the days where you're a traditional 4-3, traditional 3-4. Everybody put their own tweaks on it, obviously, but like long gone are those days. I mean, everybody pretty much operates out of a base 4-2-5. I mean, that's I call a high school football game every week. Every high school in this area operates out of a base 4-2-5. That has been really down, from the NFL down since about 2019. So, I mean, that's, I can't speak for Arkansas, but I mean, that's probably your base. But like, I'm with you, what do you do well? Keep your terminology the same, your verbiage the same. Throw the kitchen sink at Tennessee, obviously, but maybe instead of more, you do less and try to focus on doing things better than what you've been doing, because again, clearly it's just not been good. So let's flip it over real quick. Going to get to Jared Guarantano here in just a moment, but and I can't wait to get his thoughts on Taylen Green. I think Taylen Green's a really good player. Last year stat-wise, Tennessee knocked him out there for a little bit. I think he missed a couple of weeks after the Tennessee game. He had a really good game against Tennessee. Not running the football. I think Tennessee did a good job kind of bottling him up. He was dropping dimes. I mean, Tennessee was covering well and just dropping dimes down the sideline. I'm like, what's going on? His numbers were okay last year. Numbers are really impressive this year. Fourth in the league in passing with 1,398 yards, almost 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, completing 62% of his passes, averaging 279 through the air a game. He is 4th in the league on the ground with 441 yards, an additional 2 touchdowns. If you take away the sacks, which again I can't stand how sacks take away from rushing. I get it. I know how it works, but that's just one of those stats that bugs me. He's got 497 on the ground. That's 2nd in the league. 497 rushing yards a game. That's 2nd to the tailback at Missouri. Really, really talented quarterback, and who can hurt you running the football. So for Tennessee's defense, it has been boom or bust so much this year. Really gonna have to hone in. What have we been talking about so much the last couple of weeks? Contain, setting the edges, contain. This week is as big for that as any because Taylen Green can absolutely hurt you through the air and on the ground.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback, and that's always where it's going to start. It's at the quarterback position. At the same time, Arkansas scored, 13 against Notre Dame. They had 28 in the first half at Memphis. I think they ended that game, 32-31, so they scored 3 points in the second half. They put up points in Oxford. I think they scored 35 there. So it's a bit hit or miss in terms of how productive they can be. He's putting up good numbers, but, it's not resulting in a ton of points or a lot of production the last couple times out, at least the last 6 quarters going into this game. So, and it's also, you should kind of consider that Bobby Petrino was the offensive coordinator last year. They scored 19 points in Fayetteville, and Bobby Petrino was Texas A&M's offensive coordinator in 2023 when Tennessee won 20-13,
I think so,
I believe, in Neyland Stadium. So those are 2 good defensive performances against, even though they lost last season, against a Bobby Petrino offense. So if nothing else, you should be able to outscore this Arkansas team based on the defense and based on what you've seen from the Tennessee offense. But the Tennessee defense, it's going to be a thing where if you're going to give up yards to Taylen Green, at least don't bend, don't break, don't give up a ton of points. But, yeah, it's going to be a good test of contain, of setting edges, of playing with discipline, of getting off the field on third down. If he makes those throws that he made last year, so be it. I remember that one over Jamal McCoy. I think it was on the Arkansas sideline where
it was
great coverage. It was just a perfect ball placement. So,
Dime.
Right, what are you going to do there? So, get off the field, keep winning turnover battles, keep making big plays defensively. I think this defense still has a point to prove that they can be better than what they've shown at times this season. This would be a great time to see it.
You mentioned third down defense for Tennessee, and I want to talk about Tennessee defense real quick before we get to Jarrett, but that reminded me. Arkansas, they forced 4 takeaways. They rank last in the league in third down defense. I think Tennessee's third down defense is like 34%. Arkansas's is 48%. Wow. So it's basically a coin flip every time they're on defense if the opposing offense is going to get stopped or if it's going to be a first down. That ranks 125th in the country. 125th out of like 134 this year. Oh, my goodness.
That's a backbreaker on the road, too, when you're just trying to get off the field. I mean, that Mississippi State drive where they went 10 plays, 75 yards, they went 4 for 4 on third down. That's tough to overcome. Like, that keeps the stadium in it. That keeps, everything you're trying to do as a road team, that just works against you if you can't get off the field on third down.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but I want to say Mississippi State only had like 4 third down conversions the rest of the game after that drive. Like, I mean, not bad the rest of the way, but horrific in that one drive. Again, Tennessee's defense, I've crafting my narrative. You want to call it that way? Like we can do that. Like, obviously, we thought Tennessee's defense was going to be much better statistically. I didn't think Tennessee's defense would be what it was last year, but I thought it would be much better statistically. I thought it would be upper echelon of the country, top couple in the SEC. Statistically, that's not been the case. I mean, for whatever reasons, right? I mean, injuries, you can't blame it all on that. Football's a contact sport, but I mean, that's played a factor in it. Injuries have hurt Tennessee on the defense side of the football. Also over pursuing, also horrible angles, also missed tackles, also not containing, the run game. Like, all those things contribute to what Tennessee looks like statistically on defense. But, whereas in 2022 or 2021, where it's like you just got to score points because you just knew your defense wasn't going to make any stops or make any plays for you. Man, I'll take this year's unit to where, sure, they're going to give up a lot, but, man, they're going to go get you 2 possessions. Whether they're scoring themselves, whether they're setting you up to score, they're going to buy you at least 2 possessions a game. By a takeaway, a big-time sack on third down, whatever it is, they're going to get you about 2 possessions a game. What are you going to do with it offensively? Tennessee's obviously scored 4 touchdowns on defense. Prior to the bye, they led the nation in sacks, top 10 in TFLs. They've been really good in some areas. So I'll take this defense every day because, sure, they're going to give up some, but at some point they're going to go make a big play. And they made several massive plays in that Mississippi State game where Tennessee, if not for the defense, man, would have lost by 2 scores.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating to watch the missed tackles and to watch the bad angles and to watch not being able to set the edge and all that stuff. But there have been times where they've gotten off the field where they had to get off the field. Most of that second half against Georgia, there were a lot of moments where they had to get off the field, and they got off the field. And that was a Georgia offense that ran it 53 times or whatever it was in that game and had a lot of success on the ground. Mississippi State did as well. I was very impressed with Mississippi State's offense and run game and physicality and what they made that Tennessee defense look like. But there were also points in the second half where Tennessee had to get stops, and they got stops. They got a 3-and-out right there to go tie the game. They tied the game, then they got the 3-and-out to force the overtime. They got the stop in overtime after getting down inside the 5-yard line. So it's a little bit of both where it's frustrating at times, but it's also they've shown signs that outside of just those explosive plays of Colton Hood, of the pass rush, of the strip sacks and all that stuff, that they're getting pushed around sometimes, but sometimes they're bowing their neck and they're getting off the football field. And I think you have to feel encouraged that could continue and that could develop, and they could be more of that defense for longer stretches than what we've seen so far.
No doubt. We'll continue to break down this matchup, give our keys to the game, what is important, what is vital for Tennessee in this football game on Saturday, and our picks, game picks, spread picks, all that and more. Grant, Ramey, and I will return here on the GameQuest podcast here after our conversation with Jared Guarantano. End of the day, though, Grant, like you said it earlier, man, you're a 2-touchdown favorite almost. It opened at 13.5. I think I checked this morning before this recording. Our friends over at BetMGM has it at 12.5. The total, unfortunately, has gone from 69.5 down to 68.5. But
not nice. Not nice.
You are a near 2-touchdown favorite at home. Go handle business.
Yep.
Go handle business. Plain and simple. Go handle business. How can Tennessee do that? We'll tell you later on in the show. Some housekeeping first, then our conversation with former Tennessee quarterback Jarrett Guarantano as we continue on here. GameQuest, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Hey, back to the show in just one second, but do want to give thanks and kudos, as always, to our proud presenting sponsors of the GameQuest podcast. That is Spivey, King and Spivey, LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injuries, examples of which can be DUI, assaults, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injuries such as car wrecks, accidents. Over 80 years of combined experience, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. This practice has been in place for 43 years. This specific partnership since 2012, while also having partners who were energized for today's modern legal demands. Practicing primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas, the firm has won multiple awards and have attorneys who are rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you're injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or have been accused of a crime, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP can be there to help you. Pick up the phone today for a free consultation. Dial this number, 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185, or check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. You got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers, Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. And also want to give a shout out to Whataburger. When you first unwrap your Whataburger, you may find yourself awestruck by what's in front of you. Hot, fresh, made to order in a 5-inch toasted bun with 100% never frozen American beef patties grilled to perfection, melty cheese, crisp and chopped veggies, and mustard. It may look more like art than food. Some even consider it a masterpiece. They're not wrong. Whataburger, they make it just the way you like it. New one on the Strip here in Knoxville. There's one in Powell. They're popping up everywhere. That's our friends over at Whataburger. Hey guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Brunt. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last. If they lasted, they wrecked your feet, right? Brunt Workwear thought Hey, that's BS. So they built tough boots that feel great from day one. No break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. I'm not going to act like I do real work, right? I was not out there painting the fence or anything this weekend. I haven't mowed in a couple weeks because the fall allows us to get by for a couple weeks without doing that. But I did wear my brand new boots, courtesy of Brunt, to the corn maze, to the pump and patch on Sunday with my new boy and the wife. And oh my gosh, man, they felt great. I got tons and tons of compliments on the boots, and they're like, "Oh, those Brunt." That's a true story, right? My brother-in-law walked in the door. First thing he said was, "Hey, are those new Brunt? Man, I love those." I was like, "I do too. They feel great. They look great." And I was just using it. I was just wearing it for just a cool Sunday afternoon, right? I mean, I could work in those things all day long, and I know there's a lot of people that can back up that notion as well. Brunt stands behind what they make. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know any other brand that's doing that. That's a company that believes in their product. So right now, for a limited time only, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use promo code VQ at checkout. Promo code VQ, just head on over to bruntworkwear.com, put in that promo code VQ, and you're good to go. Jared Guarantano joining us back here on GameQuest as Tennessee's getting ready for Arkansas on Saturday. Bye week last week, of course, the big win over Mississippi State. It feels like ancient history now, Jared, but a couple thoughts on that game at Mississippi State. It felt like it was one of those just you're on the road in SEC play, find a way, survive and advance. And that's what Tennessee did. What I was impressed with is, in that late in that fourth quarter when Tennessee had to score a touchdown, backs up against the wall, had to go get it. Tennessee went and got it. And big fourth down catch by Chris Brazel on that drive. Big third down conversion. Aguilar avoiding pressure, giving it to Mike Matthews. False start on 3rd and 1, backs it up, and then throwing in front of the sticks. And Braylon Staley goes and runs over a guy and gets the first down. Then of course Aguilar calls his own number and gets to the end zone. I was really impressed with how Tennessee won that game in the end, but specifically that drive.
Yeah, it's so much easier as a fan, player, coach, anybody involved within organization or university. Whenever we're able to win a football game, it's so much easier to talk about it. So in hindsight, in here, we can sit there and say the different things that we saw, the different things that we need to change, whatever it was. But a win in the SEC is very difficult to come by. And the fact that we were able to do it in such terms of distress, adversity, all the things that could have went wrong, kind of went wrong, and we're able to pull out a win on the road with a lot of cowbells in our ear was an awesome thing. When we talk about the team's landscape that whole game, right, we had a lot of ups and downs, probably the most ups and downs that we have experienced all year in terms of whether it was turning the ball over, whether it's missed assignments, tackling was somewhat of an issue, but they had very good running backs. Tackling was somewhat of an issue. There was a lot of things, special teams, we didn't play very well. There was a lot of things that we wish that we did better at, but in the end-all, be-all, the way that we were able to finish that game and go on a long drive to sustain and score points and also being able to take over in the overtime and being able to get our win on the road, there's not much more you can ask for. Obviously, throughout the bye week, we were able to look at the certain things that we need to get better at and do better and kind of work on. So it's really good thing that we ended that game and we're 4-1 right now. We're feeling much better about that than being 3-2 for sure.
Yeah. No doubt about it, man. And I said it a lot after that game. Like, that's a game that Tennessee doesn't win in years prior, right? You had so many things that went wrong. I mean, quite frankly, you know as well as anybody, you play like that, and in 1/3 of the phase of the game, special teams wise, you should lose. You should. But Tennessee found a way to win on the road in this league. And I don't know about Mississippi State. They might not win 6 games just because of that schedule, but that is an improved football team for sure. You'll look at the bye week, man. As a quarterback, how did you approach bye weeks? I know it was a time for you to get the rest and recovery that you needed, but also a time to go out there and attack practice schedule, which is probably a little bit different than a normal week, maybe a little bit more contact, maybe fewer practices, but you go harder during those days. What was the benefit of a bye week for you as a player?
Yeah, I'd say as a quarterback, especially in my situation, there was 3 things that I wanted to attack. I wanted to attack physically. I wanted to make sure that my body was able to get well rested, massages, yoga, whatever it was, flexibility wise, getting back in the weight room, getting stronger. Mentally, just being able to get an approach on the next team or next couple of teams, getting out in front of their tape, being able to also look back at the certain tendencies and maybe some throws that I've been missing in weeks prior to kind of understand it. And maybe we work more of those type of throws throughout that week with our positional coach. And I would say just emotionally, right? That's the third one. These games that are such up and down games, and the amount of stress that's put on you as a college athlete, especially as a college quarterback in the SEC, you have to deal with the fan base. You have to deal with the media. You have to deal with school. You still got to go to school and still got to go to class. You have to deal with being the leader of the football team, the leader of the whole organization, the leader of the whole university in some schools. A lot of that stuff emotionally is a lot for a quarterback. So just being able to breathe, go maybe on a 2-day trip. I was talking about it yesterday, maybe going to Smoky Mountains, maybe going to Gatlinburg, just getting away for a couple of days and just going to breathe for a time period and just getting away from all the hecticness. That's way more than enough that's needed throughout the season just to get back to square one. In terms of a football team, you really looked at things that we need to attack to get better at. So whether it's our special teams game, whether it's our short to intermediate pass game, whether it's our handoffs, just the bases and details of those things that haven't really been discussed since camp. And then listen, and it's also a big opportunity for the underclassmen to get reps. So like when you're sitting there, the underclassmen throughout practices, they're really turning to scout team guys. The positional coaches don't really spend much time with them just because they may not be playing, or it might not even be underclassmen. It might just be upperclassmen that are maybe 2s or 3s. Getting these guys reps and having maybe some good-on-good scrimmages, whatever it was, drive the field, these are really good things and for the development of these players, right? All the players on the team need development, but when that season starts, it's really hard to make sure that you can take control of the 90 players that are on the team.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think something you said there, like, you have all this on your shoulders as a quarterback of a football team. And, oh, yeah, don't forget. I know it's different right now because of COVID and, court rulings and all that. But, I mean, you're 18 to 22-year-old typically. Like, that's a lot, for a young guy. So getting away for a day or two, like, that's okay. Now, everybody made a big deal about Nico going home last year, going to the UCLA game. That might be a different story. But still, just getting if you had the resources to do that, go do it, right?
And it's a whole different thing with money now too. Like, like dealing with the money side of things and having to do the partnerships and the social media. That's a whole nother side that I didn't even hit on. I didn't experience personally. Those are stresses in people's lives. When you have money and you have to take care of possibly family members that may be in need or whatever it is, whether you have to go to the bank, you have an agent, whatever it is, those are things I never experienced. Those might be things or stresses in those kids' lives that might be tough for them on an every day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a really good point that I didn't even think about. Joey Aguilar, I know you can't speak for him, but what do you think Joey Aguilar focused on during the bye week in terms of, resetting, seeing the things where he might have struggled the first 5 games, attacking that during the bye week? If you were Aguilar, how would you have approached this bye week?
I think, if I'm him, I'm going into it very happy, honestly. Just the way that he started out that season, I thought it was a really good start to the season. The only maybe possible hiccup I would probably say would be last week in terms of play style. There was just some short to intermediate throws that I think that he wishes that he had back. And those are throws that he can absolutely make. That's not a talent dispute. That's not anything. Those are just maybe some things that maybe the footwork wasn't right, maybe a short arm, maybe just eyes throughout the progression weren't as right, so the feet didn't follow. So I think just for him, just getting back to the basics and continuing doing what he's doing, continuing to be accurate on those short to intermediate to making sure that those are catchable footballs within the frame of the body. And then obviously just continue getting work with these receivers, right? Like this is only week 6 and he's still only been here. We keep talking about it, but he's still only been here 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is out of the year. This is another opportunity for him to continue learning the receivers and learning how they do certain things, especially on a bye week where there's not much game planning going on.
You look at Arkansas, obviously they made a coaching change. Sam Pittman is out. Bobby Petrino elevated back to the head chair of the Arkansas program. But, offense has not been the issue for Arkansas. They've scored a lot of points. I want to get your thoughts on Taylen Green here in a moment. Defensively, it's been a train wreck, right? And he came in, and it's kind of weird to see in season an interim coach, dismissed 3 to 4 coaches on one side of the football, promoted like an assistant defensive line coach, defensive coordinator, went out and got some guys that he obviously had relationships from, one in the NFL, brought him in here. I guess my question for you is, how realistically is it to actually do wholesale changes and change your approach defensively in season? And secondly, as a quarterback, I don't know if you ever went into a game like this to where, like, you have tape on the personnel, but what will they be doing in this game because of these wholesale changes? Like, not knowing what to expect, I guess. As a quarterback, how do you approach a week like this?
Yeah, this was something that I honestly struggled with when I was playing. I don't know if I struggled with, but it would sometimes shock me. Whenever we would go into the beginning of a season, I would spend countless hours. I'm talking 70, 80 hours studying the certain teams, whether it's their past games, whether it's their personnel. If there was a new defensive coordinator or a new head coach, you have to study them and where they came from. If they've never been a defensive coordinator, you have to study their background and who they've learned from. So certain things like that are certain vices that a quarterback has to go through. And on game day, you can sit there and study all that stuff. And on game day, it can be completely something different outside of the personnel. So when we talk in terms of defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator change throughout the season, there won't be as much change, like you said, just because of the time dispute. They did a mass wholesale change. The co-DC, the DC, the D-line coach. Those are a lot of key pieces to a defense. And on a defense that has already traditionally been last in the SEC for this whole past year, whether it's passing offense, whether it's scoring defense, passing defense, rushing defense, they have just been all in all one of the worst in the SEC, if not the worst. So the changes coming in, I don't know how much different it can be outside of maybe just doing something differently on first, second down, third down. That's where it'll be a little bit harder to game plan going into this game for Coach Heupel and the staff, just because they don't have any tendencies, right? You can throw that tendencies sheet that you get at the beginning of the week out the window, right? We don't know what Chris Wilson is going to do on first, second down from when the ball's on the 40. You have no idea what his third and short, third and medium game is, his third and long. You don't know if he ever sends cover zero pressure when it's big down and distance going forward. You don't know his red zone defense. You don't know how he calls the game. So, like, those are the different things and different questions that these coaches are going to be asking themselves and just bouncing ideas off of. And listen, Chris Wilson, I know him personally. He was in the UFL with me with the Houston Roughnecks. So as a coach, he's a very good coach, very tough on his players. He's a very good players coach. He likes to keep things a little bit more simple, and he allows the D-line to get after the quarterback in the sense of they will load the box, they will play single high, but at the same time, they want to be aggressive on the back end, right? They want to play that man-to-man. They want to play three match. They want to make the quarterback have to make difficult throws. So that's another thing. I wonder how much we're going to see that three high safety look. How much are we going to see the odd front? Because traditionally, that's not really his game. He's more of an even front, middle of field closed, bend, don't break type of guy. Let's take chances when we have to. Let's see how he does in the college ranks with an Arkansas team that hasn't been very good on defense.
That's a good note, man. I didn't know you had that connection there with Chris Wilson, who was the assistant defensive line coach who got the promotion to DC. And he brought in some outside counsel and all that. But, I mean, you have to keep a guy that's been there, like, in charge, if you will, to kind of keep, hold everything together, if you will. And he's kind of traditionally an even front guy, two high safeties you mentioned. Because I was going to say, like, I don't know. I think verbiage is going to be the same. I think you're exactly right. Tendencies is where it's like, okay, well, what's going to go on here? But knowing what Arkansas did to Tennessee last year and the success that they had against Tennessee last year, I would kind of start from there. And that's that odd front three high safety look. If they show that at points in times, or, if Florida shows that, or whoever, down the line as a quarterback, what is so difficult to navigate in that regard? You can start from the front and then work yourself back to the three safeties.
Yeah, when you're looking at, as a quarterback, whenever you get confused or you see something for the first time, traditionally you're just supposed to go by your rules. But it's so much more difficult when you're trying to process within a 15, 20-second play clock in your mind, when you're trying to see different things and trying to understand what they could possibly be getting into. The good thing about the three high safety look is Georgia ran that probably 5 to 6 times in our game a couple of weeks ago versus them. So they were able to play a sort of three high safety look when they played three double buzz, or when they played Tampa 2 with the middle safety playing that whole player. So we've seen it, which is a good thing for Joey's eyes. It's a good thing for the eyes of the receivers, just understanding landmarks, spacing. But when you go into a game and you don't really truly know what that defense is going to do, it's going to be more about progressional reads. So we do a lot of that where we go pure progression down the line. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, which, listen, last year I remember there was a clip where we were talking about possibly throwing a swing route from Nico. That was going to be his fifth guy in the progression. Did he have time to get there? Yes, but being able to have the time and going through a fifth progression might be tougher. But being able to have those sort of plays in a defense that you don't truly know what's going to be out there is perfect, just because you don't have to sit there and guess, should I work this side? Should I work that side? What if they roll down? I got to be able to notice that post-snap. The read always stays the same with pure progressions, and especially with RPOs, your read's going to stay the same. You're going to be keying that one defender. You're going to be counting the box, how many players are in the box. I'm looking to see this game how simple Coach Heupel keeps the game plan for Joey, just not knowing. And then in the second half, when we go into halftime, seeing that change from the offensive staff, saying, all right, let's go do this. Let's go attack here. This is what they're doing. This is their MO. Let's go get after them. The first couple of possessions might be a little bit difficult because we don't know. But we also have a lot more. I feel like we have a more talented team offensive compared to their defense. So also, I mean, listen, if we can rely on our run game, that would be awesome too versus 3 down front.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Tennessee has the best offense in the SEC right now. So, like, this is very coach speak, and I recognize that, but it's kind of like, just focus on yourself, go out there, play to your principles, go out there and do your thing. It shouldn't matter, especially against a personnel grouping that, like you said, has been so far this year in the cellar of the stat-wise in the SEC. Also, odd front, from a quarterback's perspective, I mean, not every single time, but typically in an odd front, you got somebody coming from somewhere. And so pre-snap, It's like you're trying to figure that – you got to be, I guess you got to be knowledgeable and know, like, hey, I see what I see right now. There's going to be another one at some point. So that's just another thing you got to be thinking about.
Yeah, you're looking at safeties capped. You're looking at if the linebackers are bossed over, which means if they're going rotated strong a certain way, can the safety roll down here because the linebackers are positioned this way? Let's look at the front. Is one side have a wide 5 technique, whereas the other side might have like a 4-eye or a 4 tech looking to slide in or slant in? All those different things are happening in a span of 20 seconds super fast. That's why Coach Heupel's offense is so awesome, because it's super hard to disguise pressures and super hard to get into a groove defensively with the space, with the tempo, especially with the things that we do this year with our run game and our RPO and also our play action pass with the guard pulling. So all these things for a traditional offense might be difficult. For our offense with Coach Heupel and with the way that they do things now, it might not be very difficult just because of that pace and that tempo, and also how much space we have with the receivers on the landmarks.
Yeah, Tennessee's always going to go fast, but I think in a game like this with all the change and all the unknowns and all that, that's where you just go, hey, we are going to go warp speed here. Tempo, and not even give them a chance.
Yeah, and you just listen, the first couple of drives might be up and down just because we might not know schematically what they're doing. So the plays might not be the best at that moment, but as soon as we find a rhythm, as soon as we're able to find out what they want to do, then we are able to attack and get after them.
All right, man, I told you 15 minutes. We're already at 17 minutes, and I have 2 questions left. I know you don't mind. So I want to get your thoughts on Taylen Green. I think that dude's a baller. 6'6". Like, he's going to play in the league, right? And he's got a good arm. Stats are really, really well. His ability to run, he's second in the league in rushing yards gained this year. Which is I don't want to say underrated part of his game, because I think it's pretty well known. He's going to create some issues for Tennessee defensively, and that's an offense that clearly is not the issue. Scores a lot of points. Only scored 12 points against Notre Dame, but in talking with some people, their opinions were that team just kind of quit in the second half. But nonetheless, Taylen Green, your scout on him, he's a pretty good player, man, and I think that even last year I thought Tennessee did a good job of like bottling him up and not letting his legs kill them. He was dropping dimes. Like, Jamal McCoy was picture-perfect coverage down that Arkansas sideline last year, and he just dropped it in the window, man. He's a good player.
Yeah, definitely one of the best in the SEC and definitely an NFL draft prospect. When you look at him, you see a big body, 6'6", 225, just like you saw. But as an all-around player, right, he's able to throw the ball very well. He's very accurate at all different ranges, short, medium, and deep. And then you look at his run threat. He is almost an implement. Like, he's like, I don't know, I was going to throw out there. He's almost like a fraction of what Cam Newton used to be in the terms of like a physical runner, super downhill. But also he runs fast. Once he opens up that stride, he's very difficult to catch. So they have one of the top players in the country, especially statistically. I think he averages the most yards per game out of any player in the whole country. When you look at how to bottle him up, you just have to have super good gap integrity. You got to be able to sit there and make sure that we're rushing the passer, which we were able to do versus Mississippi State, 6 big sacks, which we needed that. And we got to stay traditional with sending pressures on good downs, right? Maybe a QB spy on a passing down whenever we want to play man-to-man. Because I will say this, their wide receivers, especially with the injury of their number 1 receiver, their wide receivers aren't as good as we've seen in the past. Maybe we're able to play more man-to-man, especially no matter if we have our starting cornerbacks or not. But we may have to make sure on certain downs and distances that we have a quarterback spy, and that quarterback spy might have to be Boo Carter, or it might have to be a safety, because If you're trying to run after Taylen Green at linebacker, you have to be a special athlete. Listen, we might have that. We might have that personnel wise, but me personally, I'm putting in my mind, if it's somewhat third and long or third and medium, I'm going to go out there and put a safety on him as a spy. Make sure that we have QB contained on the outside, super wide fives, and make sure that he's going up in the pocket. And if he's going up in the pocket, we're going to have a spy waiting for him. But listen, as a team, Taylen Green can run the ball. Mike Washington, very good running back as well. We got to be able to corral them and stop them altogether, just because that offense can score points. They haven't did so recently, obviously, in that Notre Dame game, and they've had some woes in the second half of certain games. But all in all, at any moment of time, they can get hot and score some points.
Yeah, you're right. Second half in those games, like the point production looks good, but it's been a lot in the first half, and so that's a really good point. You brought up QB spy. You can't live in QB spy, obviously, and you got to mix some things up, right? Linebacker, star, safety, whatever. As a quarterback, what type of spy gave you the most issues? Because I know that there's different ways you can spy the quarterback, but as a quarterback, which coverage or which scheme with a spy kind of gave you the most issues?
I think I would say this, as a quarterback scrambling, I thought that scrambling through stunts was the hardest thing to see as a quarterback. Just with whatever it was, a TE, ET stunt, whatever it was, if they were sending nickel pressure with it, being able to see and feel that if your offensive line gives penetration up, it's super hard to scramble and figure out where you're going, especially if they have good contain on these stunts. But if our offensive line is able to continue to play super well and stop the stunts of defensive line teams and handle these certain pressures that they may be showing, it might be a little bit difficult. Me personally, if I'm that Arkansas team, I'm looking at our film and I'm seeing the only time that our offensive line possibly has a little bit of trouble is when they stem late, which Mississippi State did on some of the run game, and when they have a linebacker walked up and they send pressure elsewhere, right? So if they can mix it up, they might cause some problems for an offensive line. I think that's what we should do. Try to get their offensive line eyes down, stemming late, making sure we give them different looks. And then whenever that QB spy is, of course, when you see man-to-man, whether it's one hole or any type of one robber, any type of spy that's able to creep up towards the line of scrimmage makes it harder on a quarterback. If that spy is further back, maybe at 5 yards, you're able to almost make him miss or get away from him with your speed. If he creeps up on the pass and he kind of does what Georgia does and they kind of somewhat get to the line of scrimmage post-snap, it's hard to make that miss because he almost looks like he's in the fold of the rush lanes.
It's a really good point. Really good point. And on the stemming as well. And you want to piss off an offensive lineman, stem all game long. The Dan Lanning school of thought right there. Last thing, man, I know you've mentioned several of these already, but if I said, hey, Jared, give me your top, 1, 2, 3, whatever, keys for Tennessee in this football game. Not necessarily even keys for victory, but keys to keys to victory, keys to win, but keys to get off to a good start. What are those keys for you? What are you looking for in this football game from Tennessee?
I'd like to say my first one would be run the ball. I think that when we were very efficient running the ball in the first half of that Mississippi State game, they made some changes in the second half and they were able to do certain things. So we got away from it quite a bit. We relied on Joey more. I think going into a game with the unknown of how the defensive coordinator is going to play us, being able to sit there and have a really good run game, continuing to throw our RPOs if it's a bad look, I think we have to institute that to the best of our abilities. 2, obviously containing Taylen Green. He's their best football player on that football team, whether it's his run game, pass game, making him as uncomfortable as possible in certain situations that he may not understand where pressure is coming from or just down and distance-wise, just being able to mess with him. And I would say 3, getting back on track, starting fast. We had the bye week. Traditionally, teams off bye weeks start a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Let's start a little fast. Let's get this crowd going a little bit. Crowd needs to come ready to play too, right? They got to be ready to go. It's our only game in October. We have to continue to get them activated and keep them going throughout that game. But as a team, we have to start fast, and we can't let this bye week linger on to game day.
Jared Guarantano, former Tennessee quarterback. He's been in the huddle, been in the helmet, and of course played a lot of football in this stadium. He knows what he's talking about. Great stuff, man, and really enjoyed the insider perspective as always. And we'll have you on next week as we get ready for the 3rd Saturday in October. Should be a good one.
Big one. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Man, a lot of great insight there from Jared Guarantano, former Tennessee quarterback. Starting to make the rounds, man. I'm happy for him. He put out that series of tweets like gosh, it was near Christmas time last year, and I feel like everybody in this line of work that covers Tennessee shot their shot, and I dove in them DMs, and he DM'd me back. I'm like, heck yeah, man, let's get rolling. He came on the Lockdown Ball show, and he's come on the show a couple of times, and of course we got him involved with Volquest this year, and I saw him hosting the Swain event the other day, and making the rounds, man. I'm really happy for him. He's got a lot of knowledge, and of course the dude loves Tennessee, so it's good to see him kind of back in the swing of things this football season.
Does your wife know you're sliding in DMs?
She does not know, so don't tell her.
Well, hope she doesn't listen to GameQuest. You calling her out here?
She 1000% doesn't listen to anything I put out there. She says she supports me.
Same.
I don't know. But old habits die hard. Sliding in them DMs. Old habits, they do.
I wouldn't listen to us either, though. Let's be honest.
That's
fair.
Did
Did you see the guy on the board, Trivall14, said he listens to us when he's running on Saturday mornings. So if you're listening, pick up the pace. What are you doing?
Hold on. What was that handle again?
Trivall14.
Okay, I don't know if this is the same guy, but one of my buddies, he's training for a marathon. What up, Stephen Jenkins? Training for a marathon, listens to GameQuest and a bunch of other of our work on Saturday mornings when he's running for like 3 hours to get ready for his marathon. So, Stephen, as Grant said, pick up the pace, man. Come on now, pick up the pace. I enjoyed Jarrett's thoughts on that 3 high safety look and kind of how to attack that. That is something that gave Tennessee some huge issues last year. Different quarterback, obviously, different personnel groupings. Nico at quarterback. Chris Brazzell was not who he is now. Braylon Staley's a wide receiver now. Mike Matthews instead of Brew McCoy. And Dante played well that game. Or that was the Oklahoma game. I can't remember what Dante. Maybe Dante didn't play this game. Don't remember. My point is, new personnel grouping. But that was a look that gave Tennessee issues. That's a look that's given Tennessee issues at times. Florida's ran, at least an odd front before against Tennessee. Mizzou's done that at points in time. Now, Tennessee has absolutely destroyed an odd front as well. Mizzou 2021, where Tennessee ran for like 800,000 yards. But that's a look that gave Tennessee issues last year. If I'm Arkansas and I'm trying to figure out what are we going to do here, I'm going to that. I mean, there is a call in whatever defensive scheme you're going to run, right? You have an odd front, 3 high safety look. I'm starting there, and I'm saying, all right, well, we stopped you doing this last year. Let's see if we can stop you doing it this year. And then kind of go from there.
Yeah, the personnel differences sticks out to me because Joey Aguilar, let's be honest, the next test that he fails is probably going to be his first because at every turn, whatever you've asked of him to do, he's done. And there have been times where he's been inaccurate or he's thrown a pick or he's struggled a little bit and he's snapped out of it and he's played well. In that second half against Georgia, there was a lull where it felt like the game was over and Georgia's going to run away from that thing. And he answered. There were some struggles in the second half against Mississippi State. He answered. They had to have a touchdown to tie the game. They went 75 yards to tie the game. They had to have certain moments, certain plays. He's made those moments, made those plays happen. Brazzell's been unbelievable. He's been Randy Moss and Justin Jefferson, all these guys mixed into one because it just feels like if you're going to throw it up there, he's going to find a way to catch it. Doesn't matter if it's a deep ball, if it's intermediate, whatever it is, he's going to find a way to come down with it. Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews have been really, really good too. I would like to see them run the football the way we've seen Josh Heupel offenses run the football. It's been a little bit frustrating or labored, I guess, watching this team try to run the football. So if you could take advantage of a bad defense and kind of get that on track, maybe that would be a big help against a defense that's given you trouble in the past. But, man, right now I have no reason not to trust Joey Aguilar to go out there and do whatever he needs to do to put points on the board and play well and productive and efficient and all that stuff.
I agree with you. I mean, there's no reason to not trust Joey Aguilar. Let's be frank here, right? I mean, like, everybody wants to critique literally everything, and I mean, we're the same way. Like, nobody's ever going to play perfect. Like, I think I made the comment after the Mississippi State game, probably in the 2-minute drill, saying, he was so-so at times, missed some throws. I mean, yeah, everybody's going to miss some throws. That's, yeah, nobody's perfect, but man, he is, even those lulls, like, go back to the Georgia game, go back to third quarter Syracuse game, like, even those lulls that he and the offense are in, I mean, he just climbs back out of it. You said it earlier, man, like when you had to have it, 10 plays, 75 yards, 13 plays, 75 yards, 6 minutes off the clock, calls his own number, gets into the end zone. I mean, I'm so impressed by what he and really this team has done at points in times when the back's been against the wall. So,
I mean, there's that pass to Mike on, what was that, third down where he steps out of pressure, out of a collapsing pocket, and throws it with a guy draped around his ankles trying to bring him down. That was a huge play. There's a 3rd and 6 to Braylon Staley, I believe, where Braylon breaks a tackle and gets the first down.
After a false start from David Sanders.
Right. There's obviously that 4th and 5, whatever it was, to Brazel over the middle where he waits to clear the linebacker and throws it, and Chris makes a really good catch where he bobbles the ball a little bit and comes down with it. That was a really tough play.
And he bobbles the ball, and that's a perfect example, right, of how, like, that was not a good throw for Joey Aguilar. Clearly, that was a bad throw. And Brazel makes a play, man, makes him right, and goes back, catches it, bobbles it. I mean, on 4th down, like.
Right. And there's frustrating moments where Mike Matthews drops a 70-yard touchdown. There's a OPI against Chris Brazel that was an OPI that should have been a 70-yard touchdown or whatever the measurement was on that. So it's despite some frustrations and all this stuff that they still play well. He still answers the bell when he has to. And until he doesn't, knock on wood, I'm not trying to jinx the kid or anything, but you're going to trust him to make something happen when he has to.
Yeah, glad we didn't have a press box cam on us during that OPI, because you and I both were like, yep, that's offensive pass interference.
I mean, live, I thought it was.
Yep.
Live, I don't blame him. But anyway, this is 2 weeks ago. This is water under the bridge at this point. But the guy trailing the play through the flag, if it's not this, I guess it was a side judge or whatever, right there on top of the play. That was the confusing part.
It was. You saw the replay, and it was like, ooh, that is not offensive pass interference.
But you get that you get that play at home against Georgia. It looks like a replay of what happened against Georgia at home. There's no flag. You go on the road, you get the flag. It's just It is what it is.
We'll see if there's a play like that in this one coming up on Saturday and what the verdict will be. So far, Brazel's 1-1 in such plays. What will be the deciding factor next go-around? Key for me in this football game amongst many, I think the basic is, just start really fast. Tennessee has been an excellent, offensively and defensively, Tennessee has been an excellent first-quarter football team this year. When you're going up against an offense where you're just kind of trading blows and points and times, and I think that's what it's going to be like, for the majority of this game. I think Taylen Green and Arkansas's offense is going to get theirs, right? I think Tennessee's defense will make a stop or two. I think Tennessee's defense will make some plays, and so I think eventually, spoilers, I'm going to take Tennessee to cover and win this game by 2 touchdowns, okay? But I don't think it's always going to look like that early on, right? I think it's going to be trading blow to blow, and so you can't afford to get behind early, just like Arkansas. Arkansas cannot afford to get behind early because it's going to be, you can always score, right? But like Tennessee is going to continue to score on that horrific defense, in my opinion. So I think starting quick offensively, do what you do. Follow the Georgia method. That was the perfect start to a football game. Don't muff punts and leads to a short fielded touchdown, stuff like that. Get off to a good start. And then obviously I think my biggest thing on defense, and we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. This is not breaking news. You got to contain the quarterback. And they're not going to call his number for design runs a lot. They will at times, but, it's him just making things happen. And when you do lose contain, you've got to flow. Like the field shrinks, right? Because you're flowing to one side. Those linebackers have got to come up, play inside out, force them to the sideline, or, again, come outside shoulder, set that edge, force them inside to where all your help is. We talk about setting the edge all the time. A lot of people might not understand what that means. You're setting a perimeter here to where the ball carrier cannot get to your outside shoulder and beyond. You're forcing him back inside. Why do you want to do that? Well, if you're a cornerback, you got 10 of your friends on the inside. If you're a linebacker, you got 8, 9 of your friends on the inside to come help you. Tennessee has got to do a good job in that regard, and I think Don Bailey can help with that regard, playing defensive end this week, and I think he'll still play some tackle, but Tennessee's healthier. Hobbs expected to be back and make his season debut, and, of course, Moy came back against Mississippi State. Farouk, Turrentine, better angles from the safety position, that's going to be critical. So fast start for me, contain the quarterback, because Taylen Green is going to be the best football player for Arkansas's offense. He's been really, really good. But as somebody told me this week that covers Arkansas, when things are good, he's great. When he's off, it is bad. Get him into that notion of where he's off. He's missing some things, and see how bad it can get.
Get him off in the first quarter. Make that be a problem early on, right? You said start fast. Obviously, that's one that I like as well. But run the football, run for 200 plus. Ball control. Make it. I trust Joey to make plays like we've been talking about. I trust these receivers to make plays like we've been talking about. And then also what we talked about in the first half. Get off the field on third down. Don't let this offense just string along third down conversions. Stay alive, go down the field, all that stuff. Obviously, take care of special teams. You can't be letting the ball roll to the one on a punt. You can't be muffing punts. The short fields against Mississippi State, the scoring drives were incredibly hard to do. So don't do that again. Just play sound defense, sound special teams, and run the football like we've seen Josh Heupel offenses run the football in the past.
No excuse not to rack up and kind of pad those stats or really play catch up in some regards.
Yeah, that's true.
Running the football in a game like this, because you will not face many defenses that are kind of like a window. You just kind of like a door. You just walk right through than like this defense right here. And again, they're on scholarship. They're Division I football players. They can still make some plays. But so far this year, it has been a lot of bad for that defense for Arkansas. All right, you've got the spread. Tennessee right now at the time of this recording, thanks to our friends over at BetMGM, 12.5. Grant Ramey, do you like Tennessee to cover that spread?
I do. I'm taking Tennessee 44, Arkansas 17. Do some quick math. Is that the over? I don't think that's the over.
That is not the over. I can tell you that
but
right now.
but covering comfortably, I would be more concerned if this was a road game, and they had fired their coach and they had an interim in Bobby Petrino and they're trying to rally the troops and all that stuff. But you're a 2-touchdown favorite at home. You're trying to stay in the college football conversation for as long as you can. You have a huge game at Alabama next week. You can't get caught looking ahead, all that stuff. Just look like a very professional football team that's going to show up and handle their business against a team you should beat. Play the way that you've shown you can play on both sides of the football at times and do that more consistently for 4 quarters. And it should be a game that you can win. I don't know. I think because you've got 2 weeks to sit around and think about it, you can talk yourself into a bunch of different scenarios where maybe this happens or this happens, and it could be a close game. But handle your business like a 2-touchdown favorite at home should handle its business and win the football game.
So where were you? What was your score?
44-17.
Okay. Yeah, I just think in the end, Tennessee's going to score a couple more and make this look a lot worse. I'm not saying that this game, in my opinion, going into it, I don't think this game will ever be in jeopardy for Tennessee, but I do think it'll be some closer than what the final score may indicate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just see that defense kind of giving up, getting tired at the end, and Tennessee just popping a few big plays, getting in the end zone. I got Tennessee 48-24. Clearly covering the spread. That is going to hit the over. That is going to hit the over, right?
That is.
Yeah, that's going to hit the over. Math. Again, nobody said we do math here.
I got in this business to avoid math, actually.
Yeah. So I like 48-24. I think Tennessee's defense is going to score plenty. I do think that I think Arkansas is going to find the end zone. I think Taylen Green's going to make his plays because he's a good player. I think that they're going to make some weird play that's going to cause all of us to pull our hair out. Third downs are an issue. Will they have a drive where they convert 3 or 4 of them? We'll see. But I think in the end, as the game goes along, again, the good rises to the top, right? I mean, Tennessee's a better football team, clearly, playing at home, where Tennessee's not lost at home to a team not named Georgia since 2021. I really feel like Tennessee's going to kind of utilize that, and, I think the final score in the end will indicate that. So 48-24 Tennessee winning over Arkansas, and then that would put Tennessee at 5-1, 2-1 in SEC, and then all the focus, of course, will go on the third Saturday in October, the next week in Tuscaloosa. But all eyes right now on the Hogs. Bobby Petrino riding back in on a hog. Boy, it's going to be a fun college football Saturday coming up. A lot of interesting games real quick, and I know we're out of time, but I do want to get your thoughts on just a couple of these. You got Alabama on the road to Missouri. Very intrigued. I think Alabama is clearly a better football team. But Missouri, it's kind of like, well, what more can we do, right? We're playing the cards we're dealt. We're beating the teams on our schedule right now. Got a quarterback, got a really good running back. This is a litmus test, no doubt, for Missouri. I think Alabama wins because I think clearly Alabama's a good football team, and everybody that was writing them off after week 1, that's why it's a long football season, right? But I'm intrigued to see how Missouri plays against a good quality opponent.
Yeah, and how Alabama keeps kind of responding. Like, it's one thing to get up for that Georgia game because of what Georgia-Alabama means and that rivalry and all that stuff. It's another thing to go to Missouri a couple weeks later and continue to play that well on the road. Obviously, we've seen them struggle in week 1 at Florida State. They've looked like a completely different football team since then. Does that continue? Vanderbilt played them a little bit tougher than what the 30-14 final score indicated. So, obviously, that was in Tuscaloosa. So let's see what they look like when they go back on the road again.
Ole Miss, a 30-plus point favorite over Washington State. Woo. All right. Georgia, Auburn. I'm not going to talk about that one. I think Georgia wins, although it could get kind of dicey on the plains. South Carolina, LSU, I think coming into the season, boy, was that not one of the premier quarterback matchups on the whole schedule. Yet Nussmeier coming off a bye, we'll see how healthy he is, because clearly he's not played well. You know, when you have an abdomen injury, it's really hard to kind of throw the football, but he's got to play better. Sellers, I just think this game is super, super, super underwhelming now, despite LSU still being ranked 11th.
I think both of those teams would like to go back to that 2024 game in Columbia and how those two quarterbacks went back and forth, and that was a really, really good football game. And I think both of those guys are trying to kind of get back to what they were a year ago versus the I don't know what Lenore's Sellers numbers are, but I know it's just kind of been a struggle for both teams in general when you're supposed to be leaning on your quarterbacks, and obviously injuries has been an issue for Nussmeier, but still, it's just been a struggle kind of for both of those teams, it feels like.
Somebody asked me, of the three SEC teams who are ranked inside the top 15 hosting unranked opponents this week, which one is likely on upset alert? Those games, Arkansas at Tennessee, South Carolina at LSU, and then the third one is Florida at A&M. And I kind of circled this one. I'm not sold on A&M's offense whatsoever. I know Marcel Reed's numbers are not bad. I'm not sold on him. I know A&M, top to bottom, good football team, really good defense. Florida's defense has been good all year, okay? If you get a running back in Jaden Ball that can pass the century mark, if you get a quarterback in DJ Lagway that doesn't turn the football over and doesn't lose you a football game and just kind of does what he's supposed to do, that game I think can be very, very interesting. Or it was a one-week wonder for Florida. You go back on the road and you get beaten to submission once again. I'm intrigued about Florida and A&M. I mean, I'm picking A&M to win this game for sure because I'm not an idiot, or I'm not crazy, better said. But I'm intrigued about this one because, again, even when Florida looked like complete dog crap offensively, that defense was still good, and
Right.
defense travels.
I'm going to sound stupid and say if it was in Gainesville, I would feel a lot more confident, even though Texas A&M went to Gainesville last year and hammered Florida. Florida is talented. They got a crazy amount of talent. The rosters, you look at it when things click and they play well, they can look like that team that looks like the Saturday in Gainesville against Texas, or they could go to Miami and look like the team that got pummeled by Miami, a pretty good Miami team, by the way, or they can look like the team that lost at home against South Florida. So all that talent doesn't matter if you're not playing well, and we'll see if they can continue that momentum. But going to College Station and playing in front of 100 and whatever thousand it is at Kyle Field, it's one thing to do it at home. Let's see if they can find any kind of momentum on the road.
And then finally, the Red River rivalry. I got to tell you, of all the games in the SEC slate this week, I know that's a big-time Big 12 matchup, and now it's kind of ingrained in the SEC, and that's fun for college football. I literally don't give a crap about this game at all. I'm so intrigued about Alabama, Missouri. I'm so intrigued about Florida, Texas A&M. I'm so intrigued, honestly, about LSU, South Carolina. I don't give a crap about this game. But having said that, Arch still very underwhelming. I thought he made some big boy throws against Florida last week. I thought that's the first time at least, and again, I haven't watched them play a lot this year, so this might be out of left field. I thought that was the first time where I kind of sat back and watched them. I'm like, okay, there we go. I see it. Obviously still lost the football game, but also, John Mateer, is he going to play? I cannot believe we're having this conversation. I thought he'd be very questionable for November 1st against the Vols. Does he play, and what does he look like, and how do they call the game if he's in there?
Right. Does he play, and how effective can he be? It's going to be interesting to see what Texas looks like now that they're kind of in desperation mode. They've got the 2 losses. They can't afford anything else if they want to stay in a playoff conversation. And obviously, when you have an SEC schedule, you're going to have a ton of tests along the way, starting with Oklahoma on Saturday. So I'm interested to see if they look different now that their backs are against the wall a little bit instead of being crowned, kind of as a top 5 team and a playoff lock early in the season, and Arch and all this stuff. And the Arch struggles are still kind of bizarre when you do see those flashes and those moments where you're like, all right, this is the guy that they were talking about. But I think we also kind of have to have a little bit of patience with him. Like, he could be something completely different 6 weeks from now or next season or whatever compared to what we've seen over these first 6 weeks.
Pocket collapse. He stepped up, delivered a rope. 2 high safety looks, split the safeties into the back of the end zone. that was probably one of the best throws of the weekend, in my opinion. But yeah, again, a lot of struggles, and I think it's just maximized because of his name. Also, because everybody, stupidly, I might add, just no reason to do this all offseason, anointing him. The Saints are going to take Arch Manning. Are you kidding me? Like, dude played in 2 games against ULM and somebody else. Like, golly.
Let's actually see something first.
Yeah, like, be something. Do something.
Also, side note, you mentioned Washington State going to Ole Miss. Washington State and Oregon State just feels like the 2 teams that college football forgot.
Yep.
Like they have just been left behind, and the rest of the college football world is just moving forward, and they just got caught in the crossfire. Like, they are just – have you looked at the Washington State schedule?
I'll pull it up right now.
They go to Ole Miss Saturday, today. They go to Virginia next week. So back home, I would assume, and then back across the country to Virginia. They play Oregon State twice in the month of November 1st and November 29th. So college football home and home. They went to North Texas on September 13th and lost 59-10. And then the next week, they played Washington. They've played Colorado State, Idaho, San Diego State. They play Toledo at home. They play Louisiana Tech at home. They go to James Madison November 22nd. So they've gone to James Madison. They've gone to Virginia. They've gone to Ole Miss. They've gone to North Texas. Like, I'm not picking on Washington State because I think they got screwed by the whole conference realignment and all that stuff. They got lost. They got kind of stuck without a dance partner. But, man, could you imagine being those Oregon State or Washington State football programs or fans of those programs or coaches or players or all that stuff and just trying to keep marching forward? And I assume they're going to be, I can't remember what the new conferences are going to be out there with the Mountain West and the old Pac-12 or whatever.
Isn't it the Pac-12? Like, isn't it in the Pac-12?
I can't remember. I can't keep up with it. I just feel sorry for those guys that are kind of stuck in this transition moment. Maybe they'll be fine down the road and they can become an almost like a group of 5 kind of program or a Boise State or whatever. But, man, it is a struggle right now.
It is. 2 things. I know we got to go, but 2 things real quick. Number one, I'm not privy to all those meetings, and I don't follow Washington State like I follow Tennessee, but
right.
I feel like that's part of it, at least, is on leadership, right? Like, how in the world do you let this happen?
Right.
Maybe you're left without a partner, but like, do your dang job and go find a partner, right? Like what's going on? That's number one. And number 2, did I just completely miss this? Again, we're in the Southeastern Conference. I don't pay attention to anything going on out there. This is the NFL model, man. It's like the Titans and the Colts playing twice in the span of 4 weeks.
I'm pretty sure it happened last year as well. If I'm not mistaken, because they basically had, they had to scramble to. Yeah. No, actually, it didn't happen last year. They had to scramble to find people to schedule because they kind of got lost out there on their own, and I guess it kind of makes sense to. If you got to play home and home, it's also crazy to do it twice in the month of November. It would be one thing if you did it, week 3 and then week 12, but this is like week 9 and week 12. It's crazy.
You see that sometimes in the NFL where, again, like I referenced the Titans and the Colts, several times over the years, the Titans and the Colts have played twice and been separated by like maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe,
It's like one opponent and a bye week and then the 2 games against the Colts or whoever. Yeah.
It's crazy. Also, advantage Washington State. Good on them because Oregon State 0-6 so far this year. 0-6. But we're talking about Tennessee and Arkansas, or at least we were right here on GameQuest. Big thanks to Jared Guarantano, former Tennessee quarterback, for stopping by the show and talking us through some things. And appreciate you guys for being here. We'll be with you leading up to kickoff, during kickoff on the Journal's Quarters. Reaction post-game all day Sunday and more. And then, of course, we know what's next week, and that's the 3rd Saturday in October. But first things first, handle business at home against a team with an interim coach, a team you're favored by 2 touchdowns over. Go get it done. We'll see what Tennessee looks like if it happens in that regard. All that and more right here at Volquest.com. Big thanks to Spivey, King and Spivey, for being a part of the show. You got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Pick up the phone today for a free consultation. Dial 423-245-4185. That is 423-245-4185 or online at Spivey, King and Spivey, LLP.com. For Grant Ramey, Jared Guarantano, I'm Eric Cain. Thanks so much for listening to us here on GameQuest of Volquest.com Game Day Podcast.